Welcome to TelePortal tour number 28. After Snowball Earth to the time of Titanoboa. First, we visit Abyss Observatory. Please touch this board and open your nearby chat window. The destination number 1, Earth and Life Evolution. And B, teleport to farewell, Snowball Earth. So please teleport. Here is Snowball Earth. I don't talk today about why Snowball Earth started, but why Snowball Earth ended is shown in this illustration. So before 750 million years ago, and after the end of Snowball Earth, cold slab collapsed into core and super hot plume upwelling, and strong global warming ended Snowball Earth. And please look at this board. After Snowball Earth, fossils of multicellular organisms began to be found. Why? Continents became larger, erosion of the land and influx of sediment into the sea increases. See this illustration. Continent is become larger, sediment is flowing to ocean by rain or wind. When dead bodies of photosynthesis organisms began to be buried in sediment, so they no longer decomposed and depleted oxygen. Then oxygen began to increase here. Then living thing became multicellular. And come on, please. Continent became larger. Then so sediment flow into ocean, and dead living things buried in stratus. Then Cambrian explosion appeared. The Almandocaris and Cotyledon Trades. And here Helicocystis morocoensis and trilobite. And this chart, 540 million years ago, Cambrian explosion started. And this is temperature, so warm age, and oxygen is increased, and the multicellular living thing is increased. And next stage, Carboniferous is here. So temperature is cooling, but oxygen is increasing. Because during Carboniferous, giant fern trees developed, but wood-degrading fungus did not evolve sufficiently, and they buried in the ground and turned into a huge amount of coal. The giant ferns also increased oxygen, like this, and level by up to 35%, making insects larger, while CO2 became fuel, so leading ice ages, so cooling down. And next stage is global warming started. And come on, please. Coelacanth. And warming occurred in the next Permian, became caused by the mass extinction by large super plume. She discharged cold slab collapsed into core, and super hot plume appearing in Siberia continent, and a lot of dust shut down sunlight, and oxygen decreases down to 10%. So almost coelacanths couldn't survive, but modern species appeared. This picture. And a dinosaur was survived in low oxygen. And when oxygen increased, they became gigantic, or Jurassic Age. And please see this sheet. By that time, Jurassic Age, giant fern trees had disappeared, and gymnosperm flourished, but their low nutritional value mean to plant-eating dinosaurs had to eat in large amounts, which may have led to the enormous size of them. In Cretaceous, highly nutritious angiosperm appeared. Then even small plant-eating dinosaurs can survive. Last tour, the impact event at the end of Cretaceous in 66 million years ago wiped out most of the dinosaurs, causing temporary cooling. And so the end of Cretaceous. And after Cretaceous, in the Paleocene, recovered from the impact event. What happened? So let's visit such world. So please touch this board. Open your nearby chat. Then teleport to Science Circle. And here is Science Circle. So we can't directly teleport to each exhibit. So come up, please. This is destination selector. So now you can see travel to time of Titanoboa. So please touch. Delia, please guide us.
Welcome.
Oh,
We have gone from poster boards and learning about millions and millions of years ago to actually immersing ourselves in a time of about 58 million years ago. So take a minute and look around. I suspect that it will look somewhat familiar, but not quite. Where we find ourselves doesn't exist today in 2023 on Earth, because we are on land that was changing 58 million years ago. It is where the northern part of Colombia in South America is today. But this land was under formation. The Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean were connected. The Panama was not yet formed. So the Caribbean Sea was not yet formed. The continents that we know today on Earth had broken apart from Pangea, and the South Atlantic was much more narrow. And what is now South America was much, much closer to what is now Africa. So this is important for a couple of reasons. One is about weather and storms. Today, when you have the big storms coming across the Atlantic, they come across in 4 or 5 days. So they can pick up a lot of moisture. But at that time, the longest it would have taken storms to move across would be 2 days. So that tells us a couple of things about building a site like this, a paleo site. The weather was different. Although the temperature was a lot hotter, the moisture would not have been as high in the atmosphere because the storms would have been different. So if people are interested, I can pass you the settings for the sky here. Just put a note into, just IM, and I can pass it along. The best we can figure is that the air would have been much warmer, at least 10 degrees centigrade average warmer than it is in today. But the clouds would not be high clouds. There would be moisture evaporating, but very little clouds in the sky. So that's the first clue. But beyond that, everything we know about this area comes from an enormous, one of the largest open pit coal mines in the world. And that is where Alex Hasting and his team, he found the skeletons of the Titanoboa. Amazing 42-foot plus snake that is, in a way, similar to today's anacondas, but much, much, much bigger. Yeah, yikes. Yeah. So the other thing here is that in order to make an immersive diorama like this, what we had to go by were fossils, only fossils. So what else can you do? And it's kind of like doing library research in a way. To look at the fossils, to look at the pictures of the fossils, and what can you tell about them? So in the coal, you find some clues, but interspersed with the coal are mudstones. So all of the trees, all of the plants around here were chosen because they were today's versions of the leaves and the pollen that were found in the mudstones in this pit. So the pines, not the palms, the one kind of conifer, which we assume was closely related to the cypress, the bald cypress, the swamp cypress that we have today. But you saw also on the charts that Jan had showed earlier that it was some of the early fruited plants were magnolias. So you will see magnolias around here. What you don't see is grass, because grass had not yet developed. So in a swamp area like this, today we would find lots of different kinds of grasses, but there are none here. The other thing that is critical to developing this kind of a place is that the insects you don't find the insects in fossils in most cases. You'll find in places that had amber, you'll find some insect fossils. But in general, in a swamp area, you don't find insects. But we do know that there were dragonflies in this period of a location where dragonflies would live. So there are dragonflies here. What you don't find, though, back to the plants and the leaves. Some of the fossil leaves have holes in them. And these are holes that look like holes that are made today in leaves by insects like grasshoppers. So far as we know, there weren't pollinators, but there were creatures like grasshoppers or cicadas or that sort of thing. So you'll find some very large grasshoppers around here.
Fear is grasshopper. So dragonfly is flying around us, but did you fear? Did you let's?
Okay, the grasshoppers. If you look over where I'm looking now, grasshoppers are over here, right? If you look on the leaf of the Gennara plant right in front of me, you will see a grasshopper.
I found. So please see sharing screen. So giant grasshopper.
Yes, grasshopper. Yes. The other reason that this is important is that there's no evidence of the kinds of pollinators, insects that we have today, and there are no. So that has a different composition of plants because best we can figure is that the plants were wind pollinated. So you'll see how far can the wind blow seeds or so you'll find that there are groupings of plants that would be growing as far as the wind could blow. So where today's plants can be, the seeds can be planted as far as birds can carry, for instance, like 5 miles away, that would not have happened very often here. So that's another piece that is in creating this kind of a sense of what it was like. In addition to that, you'll see some plants that we have today that are plants with very dense root systems. You'll see the mangroves. You'll also see
where is mangrove? The opposite side.
Mangroves are over here. I'm standing next to a mangrove, and on that smaller island with the crocodile is mangroves. So the dense roots of the mangroves not only provide safe havens for young creatures, but also they catch sediment. And so mangroves can be island builders. That's why that small island has so many mangroves on it. But now let's look also here at some of the creatures. Right in front of me is a giant turtle. Jan's sitting on the giant turtle. Yeah. The turtles here are extinct today. These are, you'll notice that this turtle is much elongated from what you would see today. Its neck would have been able to stick out a lot further than this, so that it wasn't just the snake that was large, it was the turtles that were large also. And then you'll see here in the water, you'll see crocodiles. Again, the crocodiles are not quite like today's crocodiles, but from the fossils, the crocodiles had a more narrow, elongated head. If you look into the water, you'll see other things. Jan talked about the volumes of creatures in the water that would die and make the sludge that turns into the mudstone. But you'll also see things like a dragonfly nymph. You'll see some fish. Particularly, you'll see lungfish, and you'll see so lungfish gives you another clue to the kind of a place this was. Lungfish is still around today, but they are large and they are very bony fish. They are fish that live in low oxygen areas. So that gives you a clue as to what kind of water this was. If it were fast-moving, clean water, you wouldn't have the lungfish. The other fish, a couple of different kinds of fish here, but they are all ones that will live in the very slow-moving kinds of water. Tarpons also. So this area, over few millions years, turned from sometimes coastal areas to sometimes inland, sluggish, brackish water areas. But given all of the evidence that we have from the fossils, this was not a coastal area right now. It would have, where the Titanoboa lived. It would have had to be a sluggish inland water area. I wanted to set that information in that picture in order to give a better sense of this very large snake would have evolved. So it's hot weather, it's very wet weather, it's low oxygen, slow moving water with large bony fish, crocodiles, probably some other snakes and frogs and such that we would have here today that would have been there before. So I want to talk now a little bit about this Titanoboa. This is made to Second Life scale, but if you notice, you look at it, it does not look in shape like today's anaconda exactly. The head is a little bit different, and the tail end is quite different. It is a shorter tapered tail. This snake was built especially for this exhibit, and it was not easy to build. It's very complex build, and it does move, and we'll move it in a minute. So the Greg Bolella, who actually constructed this snake, also worked closely with Alex Hastings, who had discovered the fossils, to get this as realistic a version of an Titanoboa as could be made. So each of these little, look at the skin and how detailed the skin is on this. If you're not squeamish about it, look at the head. Cam in to look at the head and the mouth. Because this is how the fossils actually show this creature would have looked. The other thing that I want to say about this snake before we move it around is how long was it? It was roughly, the one that they found was 42 feet long. That's a big snake. I mean, think of your living room. How long is your living room? Very likely the snake would not have fit in your living room. So that gives you some sense of what this size was. But to the best that the scientists can figure, snakes like this did not have to eat that often. So it probably would have eaten lungfish. It probably would have eaten crocodiles. But it would not have had to eat more than once or twice a year, which is another rather strange thing for us to think about. But that's the best estimates that the scientists today have. So you have a huge creatures, you have very hot, moist climate, and muggy, and you had these things moving around. So I'm going to hit the sign over here, and this snake will move because it will slither across to my left. So watch the snake. Here goes. huge muscular creature moving across. Yeah, Serenity, you're about the right size for an appetizer today. Zuri would probably make the first course. So the other thing I wanted to say here is that Second Life gives us a really incredible opportunity to bring to life things that would otherwise be just words. And the words are important. It's not to say that you can't weave a story and have a good story and imagination. But this gives us an opportunity to build an entire environment where you can get the feel of something. The actual feel of something that contrasts to where you might live in today's world, solid world. And I would love to have many people do this kind of thing, to bring to life some of the ways that we can begin to know. And when you have an environment like this, to me anyway, that is an immersive three-dimensional environment, you can see what is similar, what is different, what might be missing, and you can infer and then question, scientifically question, what some of the other things could have been, and it allows you to do an entirely different level of learning. So anyway, questions. I've been talking a lot. What are some of the things that you're thinking about?
Delia, please talk about plant. Is it different from modern trees or gigantic?
Yes. The trees are large, and some of them would have been larger than they look here, but they're to scale, for us anyway, but they're more to scale with the Titanoboa. So we know what kinds of palm trees, for instance, were here because there are coconuts in the fossils. We also know some of the other trees, not only from the leaves, but from the pollen in the fossils. And until I began to do some of this research to do this build, I didn't even think about pollen fossils. But there's a significant amount of pollen fossil in this area. So that's how come we have not only the magnolias here, but mimosa trees here. And we have bananas. And we also have the flamboyant trees. So all of these are modern day versions that are as similar as we can figure from the pollen and the leaves that are in the fossils. Another couple of ones that we have today that we're just beginning here are the red ginger. Notice we have the short plants with the red flowers right around here. So red ginger was just beginning here. I said
Which
earlier,
is ginger?
which is ginger. This, with that, I'm standing next to the red.
Oh, I see.
Also, you will find around here in some places cinnamon fern. Now, cinnamon fern we still have today. I have it in my solid world garden. So here you also would have had, because it's sluggish water, and you have some fish, you also would have had algae, and you would have had, duckweed. Yes. Yes. There was duckweed, no grass, but there was duckweed.
Sorry, which is a duckweed?
Duckweed is, oops, I'm going to bump that, is over here.
Oh,
Yes, Serenity. Duckweed is highly nutritious, a good source of protein for us as well as for animals. But where you would have today sedges and reeds, grasses, there is none. None at all. You also have a number of vines here. So if I walk past the tail of the Titanoboa, whoops, I go right into the rising fog. You over here. There was quite a bit of moonseed plant. We still have moonseed today, but not. It looks like sort of like grape leaves, but it's not grape leaves. And humans cannot eat this. But other creatures would have eaten this. So there was quite a bit of that around in the fossils. So constructing this kind of a place, you can't really go by what you see today. It takes a lot of research and a bit of imagination, but a lot of research. And it's kind of like if you put out one thing, like putting out the mangroves, then what has to follow around from that? What else would likely be there? And then can you find those kinds of things in the fossil record? Because you would not find mangroves, for instance, in a desert. So with every little detail here, that's the kind of thinking and research that had to go into it. And that is also the kind of thing that Greg had to do with making the Titanoboa. How would it slither? How would it be able to constrict? How would it be able to catch prey? So it's a lot of detail and scientific thinking that goes into creating this kind of a place. And even something as simple as the Titanoboa in this kind of muck that would likely have been here with no reeds, no grasses. Would that change how the snake would slither? These are all questions that you ask yourself when you're building this kind of a site. And many conversations. So it's really hard to do this kind of thing by yourself. it's a lot easier to have a team of people working on it so that you can ask questions of each other. Exactly, Pal. Yes.
So here is a very good research platform, collaborating platform.
So this is an open site. It's staying here, and feel free to bring other people if you have students. If you have, bring them here as well. Bring friends. Challenge your own imagination. Oh, glad people came today.
So I thank you, Delia, and thank you for Science Circle provided this place.